This is Steph Curry. This is Jimmy Butler. This is Steph Curry again, and this is Jimmy Butler again. The biggest question when Butler arrived at the Golden State Warriors was whether he could fit into their system. In just half a season, the answer was clear. Absolutely. He doesn't need to dominate the ball. In fact, he actually thrives on picking his moments. He attacks mismatches, he gets to the line. Seriously, among all the players that are known as free throw merchants, somehow Butler is never talked about. And then on top of getting free throws, he brings a toughness to a team that frankly had gone a bit stale. Curry and Butler have quickly developed on-court chemistry. They're balancing their off-ball movement with isolation scoring. When Curry draws defenses out to the three-point line, Butler punishes them inside. When Butler forces switches, Curry relocates and kills defenses with his threes. And now with a full training camp under Steve Kerr, the duo looks even more dangerous. The Warriors and Jimmy didn't just cross paths by chance. They collided because they needed each other. Both sides were staring at a crossroads. The Warriors, an aging dynasty clinging to their last chance of glory, have a superstar in Steph Curry who is still playing at an elite level, but running out of time. Jimmy Butler, meanwhile, was in search of one final chapter that could validate his career and place him alongside the greats. When the Warriors took the gamble and brought Butler to San Francisco, some doubted whether it would work. Butler had always been the centerpiece of his teams. At Chicago, Minnesota, Philly, and then Miami. He was the guy everything revolved around. Golden State, on the other hand, has been built over a decade around Steph Curry, the greatest shooter of all time. And they have a system based on movement, spacing, and precise positioning. Everyone wondered, could Jimmy Butler, with his ball-dominant tendencies, fit into a machine as finely tuned as the Warriors? After half a season, the doubts faded. What we saw is a partnership that feels natural. Butler didn't just fit in, he elevated the team in a way that they desperately needed. He brings toughness, leadership, and a scoring punch that the Warriors have significantly lacked ever since Kevin Durant's departure. And most importantly, Curry now has someone who can take over when defenses suffocate him. It's a lot harder to double and triple Steph Curry when Jimmy Butler is open. The Warriors didn't trade for Jimmy just to look good on paper. They did it because they had no choice. And now with more time under their belt, the dream scenario is on the horizon. A Curry-Butler 1-2 punch that could be one of the most lethal partnerships in the NBA, provided the team stays healthy. As I stated earlier, this isn't just about a trade anymore, it's really about legacy. For Curry, it's about squeezing every ounce out of the final years of his career. For Butler, it's about finally being in the right place with the right star at the right time. And for the Warriors as a franchise, it's about refusing to fade quietly into the background. They still want to be relevant. They still want to be competing as long as Steph Curry is on the court. The Warriors had been living in two worlds since 2019. On one hand, they wanted to compete for titles while they had Curry, Draymond Green, and Klay Thompson. On the other hand, they wanted to develop their young talents. James Wiseman, Kuminga, Moses Moody. They were seen as the future of the franchise. It was a very delicate balancing act, and for a while it seemed like it could be possible. But time is a funny thing in the NBA. After their fairy tale 2022 championship run, cracks began to show. The young players were not developing fast enough, and the veterans were aging. Curry remained spectacular, one of the best players in the league, but the team around him struggled with consistency, health, and depth. They were good enough that they didn't have to tank, but not good enough to contend. The front office hesitated too long. They missed out on players like Paul George, and when they approached Kevin Durant, he had no interest in returning. They passed up on other opportunities because they were trying to hold on to their draft picks. Meanwhile, Curry was carrying the team on his shoulder. By the 2024-2025 season, the Warriors' offense had fallen to 19th in the league. Teams no longer feared them the same way they used to. And that's exactly why Butler was a risk worth taking. The Warriors didn't need another shooter. What they needed was someone who could create when Curry couldn't. Someone who could get to the free throw line. Someone who could take over games when the system broke down. And Jimmy Butler, he fit that description perfectly. Yes, they gave up Andrew Wiggins, who at the time was their best wing defender. And you could argue that Kyle Anderson, despite moving at a snail pace, was a reliable role player. And yes, Butler's health had always been a question mark. But the trade wasn't about perfection, it was more about survival. Curry is pushing 40. You can't waste years waiting for prospects when you have one of the greatest players of all time still performing at an MVP level. Thankfully, since the trade, Butler has proven that the gamble was the right one. The Warriors look a lot sharper and more dangerous. Butler brings an edge that the team didn't have before. I mean, they had it with Draymond Green, but punching people isn't always sustainable. Butler is the type of player who refuses to let the team get comfortable. His energy on defense, his ability to create shots in the half court, and his willingness to step up in big moments all address the weaknesses that have been evident in Golden State in the recent years. I mean, if Curry doesn't get injured, the Warriors could have easily made a deep run in the playoffs. Now with Curry and Butler, they're on the same timeline. The Warriors have fully committed. They've stopped trying to play both sides. They're all in on winning another ring. And when you have a player as generational as Curry, that's exactly what you have to do. When Butler first arrived, the biggest question was, would he clash with the Warriors' identity? Again, Golden State's system is all about being unselfish. It's constant ball movement, quick decisions, and three-point shooting. Butler, by contrast, is a bit of a throwback player. He loves the mid-range, he thrives on ISOs, and has never really been known as a great outside shooter. But what we have seen over the past few months is that the fit works because Butler adapted. He doesn't need to dominate possessions. He can pick his spots. With Curry cooking, Butler stays in the background. He's defending, he's setting screens, he's cutting. When Curry gets blitzed, Butler steps forward, attacking mismatches, getting to the rim, and more importantly, drawing fouls. It's a wonderful dynamic that forces defenses to make impossible choices. Do you do everything in your power to stop Steph Curry from shooting a three, or do you try and stop Jimmy in the paint? The chemistry between Curry and Butler has been great. They communicate well, and they're pretty much on the same wavelength most of the time. Curry's gravity as a shooter pulls defenders out of the paint, and that gives Butler space to attack. Then when Butler attacks defenses, he forces them to collapse, and that opens up space for Curry to relocate to the three-point line and punish teams with his shooting. The two complement each other so well, and Butler's toughness is also rubbed off on the team. Green was always the emotional leader, but Butler adds another layer of intensity. He demands accountability, he challenges teammates, and in those close games, he takes the pressure off of Curry by creating looks when the motion offense slows down. The result is that the Warriors feel complete again. They don't have to rely solely on Curry's brilliance, and now they don't even feel the absence of Klay Thompson. They have a closer who thrives in crunch time. So going into the new season, the potential is even greater. Butler knows exactly how the system is. He knows where he has to be and what he has to do. So the system can now be fine-tuned to maximize both Curry and Butler. The younger players like Moses Moody can now slot into clearer roles. And the Warriors, who were seen as this fading dynasty, suddenly look like a team that no one wants to face in the playoffs. For Miami, the story is a bit different. The Heat waited too long. Jimmy Butler gave them everything. 2 finals runs, countless playoff moments, and an identity built on toughness and resilience. But over time, cracks appeared. Butler wanted a long-term deal, and the front office, they hesitated. They hoped for one more run, but injuries and inconsistencies got in the way. By the time they finally decided to trade him, Butler's value had dipped. He was older, had a lot of miles on his body, and teams worried about how long he could sustain his level. Miami couldn't get a superstar in return, so they settled for Andrew Wiggins and some picks. Now the Heat are kind of stuck in limbo. They have Bam, Tyler Hero, and some nice role players, but they're no longer feared as contenders. They're probably waiting for the next big free agency when they can chase another star, but until then, they're not the team that we used to see. The truth is they miscalculated. They held on to Butler too long, and now they're paying the price. Meanwhile, the Warriors took the risk they should have made earlier. It's great to see that the Warriors are no longer balancing timelines. They've gone all in. Curry, Butler, and Green are on contracts that all align, signaling one final push for another championship. Add in players like Moody and Al Horford, and they've got some depth too. But the most important thing is that the Warriors have a second star again. The risk, of course, is health. Butler, Curry, they're both pushing 40. Draymond has a ton of miles on his body. If the injuries pile up, this run could collapse quickly. But the upside is too great to ignore. A fully healthy Warriors team with Curry and Butler leading the way is a legitimate threat to anyone in the West. For Butler, this is about his legacy. He's proven that he can carry teams to the finals, but he's never won a ring. With the Warriors, he doesn't have to do it all himself. He has a partner in crime now. He has a system built for success, and he has a chance to finally silence the doubters, the guys who claimed he was finished. For Golden State, it's like I said earlier, it's about extending their dynasty. They don't want to cling to the past. They've already won 4 titles, but a 5th would be the ultimate statement. It would remind everyone that even with all the changes, they still found a way to rise again. Very similar to the 2022 title. Yes, this isn't the same Warriors dynasty we knew a few years ago. There's no more Splash Bros. It's a new version, one that understands the urgency of the moment. With everybody having more chemistry together, there is belief around the organization that they can make one last push. They have a partnership that, if healthy, can carry them back to the top. Now, of course, it won't be easy. The West is loaded, and their age will always be a factor, especially going up against a young team like the OKC Thunder. But the pieces are in place. They're not holding on to their old dynasty, they're reinventing it. Curry wants to be able to squeeze the last drops of greatness in his career, and Butler wants to get the respect he deserves. And the whole organization and everybody else like Draymond Green, Al Horford, they want to prove that they are not done yet. It's great to see because sometimes in sports the best stories come when two paths just cross at the right time. The Warriors needed Butler, Butler needed the Warrior, and now the NBA might have to deal with a duo that no one saw coming a year ago. If everything clicks, this can be one of the league's greatest partnerships.